Today's lesson is about the discussion of Chapter 7 for the Operations Management of Total Quality Management, and it will tackle about the process management. Now, in this chapter, what we are going to be determining is looking at the importance of the process management in the operation of the industry. So first of all, it prevents defects and uh, committing errors. And then definitely when you are containing these two areas of concerns in an industry, you eliminate the waste and the redundancy of the operations and the output of the business, then leading to better quality and improved company performance through shorter cycle times, and then improving the flexibility and for a more faster and more consistent customer response. So that is the very essence of having to determine the importance of the process management in terms of preventing all of these determining factors, the defects and the errors. Now, the key process management principles are going to be discussed further also for performance excellence. So, what are the needed contexts for us to be able to determine the key process management in this principle for performance excellence? So, number one is identifying the vital work processes that can relate to core competencies and deliver the customer value, and then aiming for higher profitability and the efficiency of the course, organizational processes leading to its success. And when there is success, definitely sustainability follows. Now, these principles will also determine the key work processes requirements. How do we do that? By incorporating the input from customers, suppliers, partners, and collaborations, which are apparently in the management parlance, we call them stakeholders. Now, the design and innovative work processes to meet all these requirements will also be discussed. And then incorporating the new technology, integrating it to the new technology, the organizational knowledge, the efficiency of the cycle time, the productivity, the cost control is very much important, and the other efficiency and effectiveness factors that are also going to be recognized later. The key process management principle for performance excellence will also tell us about it will minimize the overall cost associated with inspections, quality inspections, conducting tests, and then validating processes or performance audits. Now, for you to validate and assess if those processes are effective, and then seeking to prevent the defects, the service errors, and the networks that can minimize a warranty cost or customer productivity losses as appropriate. Okay, so these are the key process management principles for performance excellence. The chapter will also give us an idea on how to implement the work processes and control their day-to-day operations, ensuring that they are going to meet the design requirements, using appropriate performance measures along with the customers, again, the suppliers, again, the partners, collaborators, inputs as needed as possible. The principle will also tell us that the improved work processes are needed to achieve a better performance level, and then consequently reducing variability, improving the products and services even in the process, and keeping the processes current with the trends that are coming in, and with business needs and directions, and sharing these improvements with other organizational units that and processes to drive the organizational learning and innovation. Now, the leading key idea here is for the companies to identify the important business processes, the processes throughout the value chain that can affect the customer satisfaction as a whole. And then these processes will typically fall into two categories. So what are these? Number one is value creation, that processes and support processes. Okay, if I may repeat, these processes typically fall into two categories. So number one is the value creation processes, and number two is the support processes. Now, what are the types of processes? Now, well, a while ago we were talking about the value creation processes. Those are most important to running the business. How? Because the design processes, as part of the value creation processes, these are activities that can develop and that develops the functional product specifications. So specifically, it defines what the product the created product's attributes. And then the second one is the production and delivery processes under the value creation process. Now, these production and delivery processes are those that create or deliver the product efficiency. Okay. Now, the second one is the support processes. So again, a while ago, the value creation processes, and this one is the support processes. So we define the support processes as those most important to an organization's value creation processes, employees, and the daily operations. So these are the support processes actually. And in many companies, value creation processes take the form of projects. And these projects can be a temporary work structure that start up and produces products or services and then eventually shut down. So temporal, no? So this value creation. Okay. Now, what are the process requirements of the value creation? Now, the value creation process requirements includes usually, it depends significantly on product and service characteristics. So you develop the characteristic of the process of the product in itself. That is value creation. Okay. When you say value creation, it transcends the cost. It's more of the imaging, the branding, and all of those contexts that would develop the product and or services characteristic. Another one is the support process requirements. So what are these? Now, in the support process requirements, usually it depends on internal requirements. So when you say internal requirements, they must be coordinated. And this coordination should be integrated to ensure an efficient and ineffective linkage and performance amongst the stakeholders. For example, in the Philippine Airlines sudden service. No? So what are these? So the process is PALS, sudden service. No? So you're talking about, I think, it's more of the process. No? The process in PALS sudden service is not the Philippine Airlines, no? But a company that is termed PAL, sudden service. First of all, the process is order taking. Now, the principal requirement for order taking should be accurate, fast, and friendly. Second is the cooking. So when that is the process, now you process the cooking, and then what are the principal requirements for it? So its proper temperature are needed for you to be able to preserve the food that you are delivering. And then another process is the product assembly. Now, the proper sequence for the principal requirements would be proper sequence, sanitation, correct ingredients and amounts, the speed, the proper temperature, the neatness, cleanliness, sanitation are important. Now, next is for the process of the PAL sudden service is the cash collection. Now, so the principal requirement is accurate, fast, and friendly. So the same as the order taking. The chili preparation for the process, ham, chicken preparation, for example, supply chain management, for example, for the processes, property acquisition, construction, marketing, and advertising for the processes. Now, the principal requirements for all of those we have discussed for the process are quantity, freshness, proper temperature included. Sales potential are the principal requirements. Adherence to budget, even for cost efficiency, on time and within budget delivery, clear message, and brand recognition are also part of the principal requirement. So, you're talking about process and principal requirements that are needed to fulfill a very good process. Now, process management involves planning. And with this planning, an efficiency in administering the activities that are necessary to achieve a high level of performance in the key business processes. Thus, eventually, identifying opportunities for improvement of quality and operational performance. And ultimately, is the main goal is for customer satisfaction. Now, to go further, process management principles includes the following. The process improvement focuses on the end-to-end process, from start, ending, end-to-end process. Now, the mindset of quality is one of prevention and the continuous improvement of the product and services. Now, everyone manages a process at some level, and eventually and simultaneously a customer and a supplier included in the processes. Now, a customer needs drive process improvement, so he determines it. No? So the satisfaction of the customer is the main focus of having the process management principles. Now, the corrective actions focuses on removing the causes of the problem rather than treating the symptoms. Okay? And then the process simplification reduces the opportunities for creation or for committing errors and developing network. And then the process improvement also will result from a disciplined and structured application of the quality management principles. Included are the activities in the process management. So when you talk about activities, so what are specifically the activities that are needed to be assessed in here? So number one is the design. So when you say design, it will ensure that the inputs to the processes, for example, the materials, the technology, methods, the work methods, and the people, number of people, workers, efficient workers, are adequate, and the process steps are well defined, so that the mistake will be proved, will be lessened, and mistake proofed. Corrective measures are to be assigned or integrated in the process. Now, the production should be sequenced properly, especially in manufacturing. So there are line sequences, and then for efficiency of delegating the work process. And then it has to be lean but mean, small but very strong, lean but mean concept for the efficient process management activities. Now, and this process management activities should be understood for consistency and effective execution. Again, that is under design. And the second is control. What happens there? An activity of process management under control is assessing whether the process performed as planned and the process's output is on target and upright and on target and on the dot, on schedule. So it's control. Now, another one, process management activities included, is improvement. Now, when you say improvement, it's continually seeking to achieve higher levels of performance in the process, such as reduced variation, higher yields, fewer defects and errors, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of things that needs to be assessed and evaluated for improvements in the process. Okay. Of course, there are requirements for process management. So what are these? So the process must be repeatable. So if I may repeat, the process must be repeatable. That's part of the requirement. And then the process must be measurable for us to be able to determine the efficiency of the process. So again, repeatable and measurable. And then meeting these two conditions, it will ensure that the efficient data can be collected to reveal the useful and accurate information for evaluation. And then eventually reminding controls. And then learning that would lead to improvement and maturity of the product or services being assessed. Now, next is designing work processes. So, how do we do that? So, process design can have definitely it can have a significant impact. Impact in terms of cost efficiency, the agility of the product or service, and the quality that it will impart to the customer in the course of events. So, again, designing work processes should include cost, agility, and quality. Now, the goal of the process design is to develop an efficient procedure. By having those, it will satisfy both the internal and the external customer requirements, now leading to an efficiency of the operations and the happy customer eventually. Satisfied and happy customer. When you say agility, there are lots of context of when you say agility. So it entails a lot of definition depending. So, but then here in the process management, the agility is referring to the flexibility and the short cycle times of the production, lifespan, periods and everything of the process. So agility, flexibility and short cycle times of production. Now, these enablers of agility will include a close relationship with customers to understand the emerging needs and the requirements of the production processes. And then empowering the employees as decision makers, because there are times where in situations where it's now within the judgment of the employee rather than having it still uh, uh, consulting it to the higher levels where it can be resolved on that level. So thus minimizing bureaucracy, red tapes, and cost-cutting measures. Now, effective manufacturing and information technology is important even. Now, in today's world of information technology and digitization of some of the things that are needed to be data conceptualization and data gathering, so effective manufacturing information technology are needed. Okay? Now, close supplier and partner relationship should be developed. So that is part of agility. Now, and then improvements in the process or services is part of the agility. So making a breakthrough improvement, not just minimal improvement on things that are being processed, but apparently has to have an impact, greater impact to have a breakthrough achievements. Okay, so there. And flexibility actually refers to the ability to adapt quickly and effectively to changing requirements. Now, it might mean a rapid changeover from one product or services to another, but a response to changing demands even, or the ability in producing a wide range of customized services specifically aimed at satisfying your customers. Now, under the process design, first of all, we now tackle now how does the process design comes along. First, you identify what product or what services, and then you specifically focus on what work do I do. Okay, so that's number one. Next is identify the demographics, identify the customer. Who is the work for? Well, who is the work for? Yeah, that's it. No? So, who are you going to be catering in this product and services? So, identify the customer. Next is identify the supplier. I will be needing materials. raw materials or sub materials for whatsoever. So what do I need, and from whom do I get it or get them? Okay. Now next is identify the process. So how are we going to implement it? So what steps or tasks are to be performed for us to be able to dispense and create the product or services that are needed in the process. Next is mistake proof of the process. So you now try to assess the efficiency of the procedure. How can I eliminate or simplify the process or the task? Okay. What Poka Yoke? No, so that's a term. Poka Yoke is, for example, mistake proofing. Poka Yoke. Okay, mistake proofing. Devices can it's a device that can be used. Okay, so that's the question that you will have to raise in identifying a mistake proof in the process. What Poka Yoke devices can I use? It's mistake proofing that can I use. Next is the develop measurements, develop controls, and improvement of goals. Now, how do I evaluate the process? And how can I improve further? So these are the things that the process design are aiming at. No? So if I may repeat, the process design should include identify the product or services, identify the customer, identify the supplier, identify the process, mistake proof the process, and then develop measurements, controls, and improvements of goals. In the service process design, the three basic components are the following: the physical facilities, the processes that are going to be implemented, and the procedures to follow in these three basic components. And then next is the employee behavior. Is it appropriate? Is it capable? Are they are they are there processes to be involved in determining the employee behavior? And then next is the employee professional judgment. So the critical thinking, the judgment call from the professionals, employee professionals. So there, no? So the service process design would include the three basic components. If I may repeat, physical facilities, processes, and procedures. So number one. Number two is the employee behavior and character. And then number three is the employee professional judgment. Okay? Now, the key dimensions here is that the customization of the customer contact. How do you do that? So the key dimension is for you to determine the customer contact and interaction for proper feedback in your evaluation. Now, and then it will be headed to by knowing the feedback, by knowing the requirement and the needs of your demographic as a customer. The product and services should be under customization. And then after that, after determining the customization for the services or product that are going to be produced, the intensify the labor, no? Labor intensity. Do we have the right people to work for it? Do we have the proper talented people or skilled labor that has to work for it? So these are the key service dimension. Customer contact and interaction, customization, and labor intensity. Now, a while ago, we've talked about the Poka Yoke, so the mistake proofing processes. So what are these? So typical reasons for mistake and errors are being determined. So number one is forgetfulness. And it happens in all of the processes. Now, forgetfulness due to lack of concentration, perhaps, because there are personal problems. There are a lot of things that a labor or an employee is thinking about something else. So therefore, sometimes you forget things. So due to lack of concentration. Next is misunderstanding because of the lack of the familiarity with the process or procedures. So sometimes we tend to just keep it to ourselves, without even asking if we understood or not the processes. Okay, misunderstanding. Now, poor identification that is associated with the lack of proper attention even. So again, focus is referring to here, no? And then the lack of experience. So sometimes there are processes that are new to us that apparently we're foreign to the process. So therefore, a lot of mistakes are inevitable, no, to happen. And then absent-mindedness. So sometimes you don't know what to do, no? So there are things that we forget things easily, and then from there, so absent-mindedness. So yeah, there are a lot of things that would lack sometimes, no, these things. And then delays in judgment. So it's important. Delays in judgment when process is automated. So therefore, there are things that you can resolve by yourself, but then apparently, you cannot just, there are hesitations for you to make proper judgment eventually. So that would cause, yeah, mistakes even. And another one is the equipment malfunction. Okay, so it happens, no, inevitable. In the processes, manufacturing, there are equipments that is beyond our control that malfunctions. Okay. Again, what is Poka Yoke? Okay, it is an approach for mistake proofing, and it is under the process that is using automatic devices or methods to avoid a simple human error. Okay, that's Poka Yoke. Now, Poka Yoke is based on the following: prediction, or organizing that a defect is about to occur, and providing a warning even. So yeah, so anticipation of things to happen. And then detection or recognizing that a defect has occurred, and then stopping the process eventually. So that's being alert in at all times. Okay, so when you detect that there's some problem, so you resolve accordingly, and for in a unimmediate decision making process. Now in the Poka Yoke, there are 3 levels. So designing potential errors out of the processes. It's number 1. And then number 2, identifying the potential defects and stopping a process before the defect is produced. And then third is the finding defects that enter or leave a certain particular process. Okay, so there. So that's the 3 levels for the Poka Yoke. Service errors. So what are these? Task error. First of all, we define task errors. So when you say task errors in terms of service errors, it includes doing work incorrectly, or work not requested, or work that is on the wrong order, or working slow paced, no, too slowly, no, to that effect. So that is task error. Now another one is treatment errors in the contact between the server and the customer. So how do you do that? Such as, for example, such as a lack of courteous behavior. So that is can be treated, no, treatment errors in contact. And then failure to acknowledge or listen or react appropriately to the customer's needs and requirements. So, okay, so the treatment errors in the contact between the server and the customer. Okay, number 3, tangible errors. So when you say tangible errors, for example, unclean facilities or dirty uniforms or inappropriate temperature and document errors even. So these are mistakes and tangible errors that can be seen, and yeah, that's it. Okay, so service errors is task errors for number 1, and the number 2 is treatment errors in the contact between the server and the customer, and third is the tangible errors. Fourth is customer errors in preparation. So how does it happen? As the failure to bring the necessary materials, and then understanding the role in the service transaction, and to engage the correct service, Okay, so that is customer errors in preparation. Now, another service errors included are customer errors during an encounter. So, such inattention actually would lead to misunderstanding or simply a memory lapse that is dangerous actually. So, memory lapse, and it will include a failure to remember the steps even to follow. And in the process, you will be committing a lot of errors. Okay. Next is the customer errors at the resolution stage of a service encounter. So how do you go over it? It includes the failure to signal service inadequacies or to learn from the experience even and to adjust the expectations and to execute the proper or the appropriate post encounter actions or activities. Okay, that's part of the service errors. Now, what is process control? So when you say process control, it's the activity of ensuring conformance to requirements. And then these requirements will be taking corrective actions when necessary to correct problems and maintain a stable and sustainable performance. Okay, that is control, process control. Now, the process control is important actually, for two reasons. So first, these methods are the basis for effective daily management of processes. Okay, and then second is the long-term improvements that cannot be made to a process unless the process is first brought under control. Okay, so that's it, process control. Now, what is the component of the control systems? Okay, so these systems has three components. Number one, a standard or goal. Number two is a means of measuring the accomplishment. Number three is comparison. You compare the actual results with the standards along with the feedback to form the basis for the corrective actions on the committed errors and mistakes. Now, we assess what is control and improvement. So, fitting all together and then assessing it. So, control should be the basis for the organizational learning. So, how? For us to be able to aim at leading to improvements and the prevention of the defects and errors commissions. Now, the after-action review should be followed. So, and be assessed as such, as this. So, the after-action review could be it's a question form that would command what was supposed to happen or what actually happened and why was there a difference or what can we learn. So these are the after action review for you to be able to control and improve the process. Now, in the manufacturing, actually, control is usually applied to incoming materials and then the key processes and the final products and services involved accordingly. So that is part of the manufacturing control. Of course, manufacturing or industry are aiming for an effective control systems. So how do you command a very good system in the effective controls? So number one is documented procedures for all the key processes even. So it has to be well documented, step-by-step process. And then a clear understanding of the appropriate equipment and working environment should also be installed and considered. So it's important for the processes, for understanding the appropriate equipment that are needed in the process. And then, of course, having an efficient methods for monitoring and controlling the critical quality characteristics of the process. And then, approval processes for equipment are necessary for quality check even. And then the criteria for workmanship are to be installed. For example, the written standards, samples that are manufactured, and then illustrations are also important. So these are criteria for workmanship. Now, and then maintenance activities. So definitely the process is not perfect, and there will be mishap sometimes. Minute or major mishap is inevitable. So therefore, it is important for the maintenance activities to be included in the process. So that is how we effectively control the systems. Now, what is the importance of having to recognize the process improvement? So number one, we will be able to develop the customer loyalty. And this customer loyalty is driven by delivered value, because you created a very good value for your product and services. So therefore, you will gain the trust and confidence of your customers. So the loyalty by them is coming and inevitable. Now, delivered value is created. How is it created? Definitely by business processes. Okay, so the efficiency in the processes would command a delivered value. Now, a sustained success in competitive markets. And these competitive markets are requiring a business to continuously improve a delivered value, because it's a dog eats dog industry in whatever form. Its competition is present. So sustain the success in this competitive world of the business. And then the importance of process improvement will also command a continuously improved value creation for your product and services. A value creation ability would command a business that continuously improve its value creation processes and maintain it. Okay? Another process improvement is the Kaizen concept. When you say Kaizen, it's taken from the Japanese word. And the Kaizen in the Japanese word is commanding a gradual and orderly continuous improvement of the process. Kaizen concept. Uh, Gradual and orderly continuous improvement. Now, it focuses on, however small, or gradual or frequent improvements over a long period with minimum financial investment. So therefore, cost efficiency and the participation by everyone in the organization per se. So everyone will be involved in the process, thus giving a lot of improvements for the processes. Now, a Kaizen blitz is an intense and rapid improvement process in which a team or a department throws all its resources into an improvement project, for example, over a period of time, and opposing to the traditional Kaizen applications, which are performed on a part-time basis. So again, Kaizen blitz. Now, the cycle time improvement. Now, when you say cycle time, it is the time that it takes to accomplish the one cycle of a process or service. Now, how do you efficiently improve the cycle time? So, reduction in the cycle time will serve two purposes. So, what are these? Number one is they speed up the work processes so that customer response is going to be improved. Okay, so when you will get feedback easily, satisfaction, dissatisfaction, that's it. So that is speeding up the work processes. Okay, and then second, reduction in time cycle can only be accomplished by streamlining and simplifying the processes, thus eliminating the non-value added steps such as rework, or you have to repeat the process again. So there, okay? So that is cycle time improvement. Then this improvement should be a proactive stance now, task of the management, and can be considered and viewed as an opportunity and not as a simply reaction to recurring problem or current challenges that it faces, and the competitors' threats amongst them. So it has the key idea here is it has to be a proactive task of the management. In all of this, the process improvements actually has to go and has to be identified with methodologies. So when you say methodologies, so what are these? The process improvement methodologies. It's redefining and analyzing the problem. So recognizing it and then redefining. And then collect, when you say redefining and analyzing the problem, it's a collect and organize information. And then that information should be analyzed. And then when after analyzing the data, and you now assume the underlying assumptions, hypothesis, and then re-examine the problem for new perspective based on the effects, based on the results, based on the recommendation, with the goal of achieving a workable problem definition. Now, the process improvement methodologies would include generating ideas. So, how do you generate ideas? So, brainstorming is amongst them. And in the brainstorming, it develops the potential solutions to the challenge or to a problem facing the industry or the manufacturing. And then evaluating and selecting these ideas that were generated from these ideas. So, evaluating and selecting ideas, no, that came from the brainstorming, and then determining whether the ideas have merit or will achieve the problem solver's goal to correct these measures. And then afterwards, after generating, redefining, and analyzing the problem, we generate the ideas through the brainstorming. Then afterward, we evaluate and select ideas. So after all of these three processes, we implement the ideas based on the results or the recommendation and the findings. Now, in the implementation of the ideas, what are needed? We sell the solution and then gain acceptance by those who must use them. Okay, so it's important, implementing the ideas. In the Deming cycle, we have been talking about Deming, the Deming concept. So, in the Deming cycle, you talk about act, plan, study, and then do. So these are the cycle. You plan, you act, you study, and then you do. So those, that's a cycle. In the planning stage, what happens there? First of all, you define the process. When you say defining the process, the start, the ending, what it does, the processes as a whole. And then secondly, describe the process. When you say describe the process, what do? You list the key tasks performed, sequence the steps, determine the people who are going to work on it, and then determine what equipment are necessary in doing the process, and then check the environmental conditions, and then what are the methods that are efficiently, work methods that are efficiently be engaged in the processes, and then upon the availability of the materials to be used. So that is part of the plan. And then under the plan, you also describe the players. So when you say the players, you're talking about the external and the internal customers. So because they are the recipients of all those processes, the suppliers and the process operators included. No? So these are the stakeholders that are necessary for us to determine under the plan. And then under the plan, we also define the customer's expectations. What the customer wants, when the customer needs it, and where the customer gets it. So the what, the wants, the what, the when, the wants, the when, and the where are important for the customer preferences for both the external and the internal customers. Now, last for the plan is that determine what historical data. Historical data is important for us to reassess the processes that were done in the previous process performance, or what data are going to be needed to be collected for better improvements and understanding of the process. Then under the plan also we describe and the perceived problems. These problems that are associated with the processes. For example, the failure to meet customer expectations. So what causes it? Or the excessive variation in the process. So the keep on changing. The no standard procedures are being followed. The long cycle of time. So these are the things that are to be considered in the previous performance, and so many more. The challenges that faced up during those previous processes should be determined. Okay. Now, next is to identify the primary causes of these recurring or current problems and their impact on the performance in the process performance. And then next under the plan is develop the potential changes that are necessary or the solution to the process for the efficient delegation and implementation of the process. And then evaluate how these changes or solutions that will be engaged will address the primary causes or challenges of the process. And then select the most promising and the most appropriate and the most acceptable solutions under the plan. Okay? What are the do's? Okay, so the do's are conduct a pilot study or experiment and test to make an impact or test the impact rather. Test the impact of the potential solutions. What is its effect? What is the acceptability factors that are being recognized here? Okay, so conduct a pilot study, experiment it. And then another do is that identify the measures to understand how these measures and any changes or solutions that would lead to the success in addressing the perceived problems. Okay, so conduct a pilot study and then determining, so based on the result of the experiment, and then get the potential solutions, no, and then identify the measures for better understanding. Okay, so and then in the study, we are reminded, in the study after the planning, we examine the result of the pilot study or the experiment that we have engaged, and then from there we determine whether the processes improve the performance. Okay, and then identify further the experimentations that are needed or necessary to predetermine and pretest the process. Okay, and then next is act. Now, how do we act? So based on plan, and then we do, and then we act. Now, select the best change or solution. Okay, and then under the act, we develop an implementation plan. Now, and when in the implementation plan, what are needed to be implemented? So, what needs to be done? Who should be involved? And when the plan should be accomplished? So, these are the leading questions that would lead in the development of an implementation plan. And then another act is that you standardize the solution. So, come up with a standard solution. And then, for example, by writing new standard operating procedures. So, how do we determine a new standard operating procedure? So, definitely, it should come from the previous experiences in the result of the experiment and study, and the feedback of the customers even are that would lead to a standardized solution to a problem. And then next under the act is establish a process to monitor and control the process performance. Okay, so monitoring and control should be given. So now, that's under the Deming cycle. Now, the Deming cycle actually it focuses on both the short-term and continuous improvement of the manufacturing processes, and then the long-term organizational learning. So that is part of the Deming cycle. Now, it will lead us into also creative problem solving. So how do you do it? In the mess, there is the mess finding. So when you say MES, identifying the symptoms under the MES, no, MES finding. So you need to identify it, identifying the symptoms of the problem. And then fact finding. So how do we do that? By gathering data, and then defining the operational encounters and challenges. And then problem finding even is important. So what are the root cause of these challenges or errors or mistakes? And then after that, idea finding. Now, where do we get it? Brainstorming. So we check on the necessary ideas coming from the decision makers and participants of the processes. And then after that, determining all of this, the solution finding. That is part of the creative problem solving also, the solution finding. It will evaluate the ideas and the proposals that were provided in the previous activities. And then after that, mess finding, fact finding, problem finding, and idea finding, solution finding, we now implement. We go to the implementation. So make the solution work. So that is the implementation. We go now to the breakthrough improvement. So when you say breakthrough improvement, it's this continuous change resulting from the innovative and creative thinking, and it is being motivated by stretch goals and facilitated by benchmarking activities and re-engineering the processes. So that is a breakthrough improvement. Now, it stretches the goal force in an organization to think radically in a different way, making impact, and to encourage the major improvements, and as well as the incremental ones even, for us to be able to have a better idea coming along and breakthrough ideas. What happens in the benchmarking? So in benchmarking, are the stretching the search of the industry best practices. That's why you benchmark. What happens in the industry? What happens in the competitors? In this, you benchmark, the best practices of this industry or the competitors in the industry, and leading to superior performance eventually. In the best practices, we approach the approaches that produces exceptional results that are usually geared towards innovative in terms of the use of technology or the human resources, the skilled ones, and recognized by customer or the industry experts even. So that's the best practices. Now, the type of benchmarking are competitive benchmarking. In the competitive benchmarking, what happens? It is simply studying products, studying the processes or the business performance of a competitor in the same or related industry, and then comparing the price, comparing the technical quality, the features, the branding, and other quality for performance characteristic of your product and services. So that is how competitive benchmarking is all about. And now, another one is the process benchmarking. So in the process benchmarking, actually, it's only focuses on the key work processes. Okay, so that's, key work processes now there. And then next is the strategic benchmarking. It focuses on how the companies compete and provided and install strategies that can lead to competitive advantage. So again, the types of benchmarking are competitive benchmarking, process benchmarking, and strategic benchmarking. Now, re-engineering. So what happens there? When you say re-engineering, it is the fundamental rethinking and the redesign, radical redesigning of a business process, and achieving unexpected dramatic improvements in the process. And then the contemporary measures of performance even will be determined, such as cost efficiency, development of quality, the improvements of the service, and the speed in delivering the service and the product. That is the engineering. Okay. And in the re-engineering, it involves asking basic questions. So what are these? For us to be guided, no? So questions like about business processes. Why do we do it? And why is it done this way? So these are the key ideas in the re-engineering that involves asking the basic questions for us to be led into the engineering processes. Okay, in the process management, there is the Ball-Bridge criteria once again. So in the previous chapter, we have already discussed the Ball-Bridge award criteria, but then apparently in the process management, the category examines how an organization designs its work system and how it is designed, how it is managed, and how it is improved in the key processes in the implementation of work to deliver the customer value and achieving organizational success and sustainability and the preparation of the emergency readiness. So that is the process in under the Ball-Bridge award criteria. What are these under the work system, under the work system design, and under the key work processes, and then the emergency readiness are the key words. And then the work processes even, the work design, processes design, the process management, the work process management, the work process improvement included. These are under the process management in Ball-Bridge award criteria. Now, how about the ISO 9000? So what are the process management that are being defined here? So in the ISO 9000, planning and controlling the design and the development of products and managing the interfaces between different groups that is involved in design and development. And then another one is management of inputs and outputs for design and development are also included in the ISO 9000. And these are activities and the use of systematic reviews to evaluate the ability to meet the purchasing processes, the control of production and service, among others, including validation, including control in monitoring, measuring devices that is used to evaluate conformity, and then the analysis and improvements, monitoring and improvements of quality management processes, and the continuous improvements, including preventive and corrective actions that are being engaged and implemented by the industry or the manufacturing process. The ISO also determines the use of quality policy, the integration in the objectives, the regular audit result determination, data analysis, the corrective measures, and the preventive actions, and then the management reviews to continually improve its quality management system's effectiveness. So these are part of the management process, the process management under the ISO 9000. Now, we have the Ball-Bridge already, and then we have the ISO 9000. Now we go to the process management under Six Sigma. Six Sigma, understanding and improving processes on a project-by-project basis. Okay, so that's the difference. And these projects are clearly linked to strategic needs of the organizational objectives. So there, and then that projects are managed under a common framework for proper guidance. And then the Six Sigma team project approach will provide a natural fit with the requirements of product and process design for better control and for the application of a better improvement in the process. Now, the process owner should be trained in Six Sigma. Why? Because these methods will be involved in the formal Six Sigma projects and then still have the responsibility for continuously improving on a daily basis. So it's important that the process owner should be trained in Six Sigma methods. And these are the things that would warrant a very good learnings about the chapter discussion on the process management chapter of the operations TQM under the process management. So I hope I was able to impart the necessary learning in Chapter 7 under process management. And see you again in my next chapter.